Yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. And those who can join when they can join, great. If not, we'll definitely do another session. For those who are interested.
Perfect. Okay. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen because there's quite a bit of information, and so I thought it would be better if I spoke, but also you could see it yourself. So be sure and take notes. And what my thinking is this: write down your questions, and then at the end of my presentation, then I'll open it up, and you can ask as many questions as you want, and kind of start this thing out. Now, Small Business Matters is our organization, and we do a lot of webinars on different subjects. This particular subject is the SBA 7A Paycheck Protection Program. So a little bit about us, so you understand who we are and what we're doing. North American Commercial Capital is my company. We are not a bank. I want to preface that we are not a bank. We are a direct lender intermediary. We are a TA, a technical advisor. We are a registered and authorized SBA lender's agent. So we work with a couple of direct lenders with the SBA. I'm president of North American Commercial Capital. I'm also the founder of the Small Business Alliance for Credit Literacy. I'm the chairman for the NACC Advisory Group, the Business Academy, and a serial entrepreneur and other things I want to talk about the economic injury disaster loan first. And there's some confusion. Should I go the paycheck? Should I go the EIDL? Well, one thing I will recommend is I believe everybody should go ahead and file for this $10,000 advance on the economic injury disaster loan. This is a good deal. It's a grant. You will never have to pay it back. It's not a loan, okay? And I'm going to tell you what happens if you file for the PPP and this here in a few minutes. But any small business owner in the United States, Washington, D.C., and the territories are eligible to apply for this. You can see the web address I put on top of the screen here. Write that down. Go to that link and look for the 10K advance. I took a picture of it where it says 10K, so you're going to recognize it when you see it on the website. This is the SBA's website. Go ahead and file for it. 1099, self-employed, or somebody with a corporation. This is a good deal. Now, let's talk about the Paycheck Protection Program. This loan provides forgiveness if you retain employees. Some of you may have employees, some of you may not have employees. And one thing I tell everybody, right? What I'm about to tell you is subject to change at any time. This could be, this changes by the hour, it changes by the day, but it is changing. So who's eligible? Small businesses, 501c3 non-for-profit. If you folks are on the board of a church or another organization that's a 501c3, they are eligible, and we can help them, or other lenders can help them as well, right? The veterans organization, a tribal business, not more than 500 employees, and that's the cap. So if your organization, even your church, has more than 500, then they can't do it. It's too large. So a sole proprietor, an independent contractor, and other self-employed individuals. All of these entities can apply for the PPP. Even businesses with more than one physical location. If you have a friend, a family member, they have got multiple restaurants or multiple businesses in different locations, they qualify. Each one qualifies as long as the employees are below 500 collectively. They've waived the affiliation rules. And I'm not going to get into that a lot of detail with you on this, but there were affiliation rules that if you were involved in one or more or two or three businesses, then you were not included in this, but they've waived those rules for certain industries. The business must be operational as of February 15th, 2020. I can't tell you how many calls I've been getting where they started their business after February 15th, and unfortunately, we can't help them. They're not included in this. And you must have had employees and paid salaries and payroll taxes or paid an independent contractor. I believe that there's several people on this call that are independent contractors. You're paying yourself. So this works for you. You're included. The average eligible monthly payroll costs, excluding compensation, of $100,000 in wages and above based on the prior 12 months. And we're going to talk about this again, but based on the prior 12 months. And this was a little bit misleading because what the SBA is trying to say is it's the 12 trailing months. So a lot of people are taking 2019 for 12 months and they're running it times 2.5 months, and that doesn't work. It's the trailing 12 months. So everybody on this call, you need to look at March 2020, last month, March of 2020, and go back 12 months to April 2019. Those are the 12 months they're talking about. So you take your income over the last 12 trailing months and take it times 2.5, and that's going to give you the loan number, right? If anybody has received a SBA loan after January 31, that will also be included in the PPP. Now, I want to show this slide again and look at what it says in red. Eligible employee salaries, which excludes compensation above 100,000. A lot of people are misreading that, saying, okay, I made 120, I made 200,000, I made 170,000 last year. I'm not included. No, you are included. You're definitely included, just the first $100,000. So if your income was 150, you're going to put on your loan 100,000 divided by 12 times 2.5 months. That's the loan that you're going to get. And then we're going to have to verify that, and we'll talk about that in a minute here too. So don't get wigged out if you're making over 100,000 and you think this doesn't include you, because it does, just the first 100,000. So here's what the allowable use of the proceeds are for payroll costs, costs related to group health insurance, employee salaries, commissions, or related compensation, right? A lot of realtors out there, all they live on is commissions, right? Mortgage interest, rent, utilities, and interest on any debt obligation incurred before the covered period. The interest rate started out at 4%. I had to change this yesterday because now it's been lowered to 1%. And the term of the loan was 10-year payout, and now they reduced it to 2-year payout. And so again, this is changing on a daily basis. It might go back up to 4% tomorrow. I don't know. So there is no prepayment penalty, and allows for complete deferment of any loan payments for at least 6 months, not more than a year. What that means is if you get a $10,000 loan, you get a $500,000 loan, you aren't making any payments for at least 6 months. You can probably extend that out to 12 months, but no longer than 12 months. What is the collateral? The loan's unsecured. There is no collateral. Any personal guarantees? No. Is there credit elsewhere rule enforced? No. And what the credit elsewhere rule is, for those of you that are wondering, with all SBA loans, when somebody applies for an SBA loan, let's say a traditional 7A, they ask the question, can you get this money somewhere else? Can you go to a bank? Can you go to a private individual? Can you go to a family member? Can you get this money elsewhere? And if you can, then the SBA won't give you the loan. So they've waived that. There is no credit elsewhere rule with the PPP. Now, the borrower is limited to one or the other. They can't do the economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection. It's one or the other. And you're probably saying, yeah, but Brad, you told me a few minutes ago to go ahead and apply for the 10,000. Well, what's going to happen? You'll see the next slide. They're going to subtract that from this PPP. And we'll get to that in just a second. So you cannot apply for any other programs through the SBA for the same purpose. And if a borrower has an EIDL loan unrelated to COVID-19, you're still eligible. Let me explain what that is. We all know about hurricanes. We all know about the floods. We all know about the tornadoes that has hit our country in the last 18 to 24 months. That's what they're talking about. So if you lived in Florida, in Naples, and you got severely hit by the hurricane, Irma, right? Well, then the EIDL loan, you might have one of those loans because of the hurricane. You're still good for COVID-19. It's a different disaster. So that's what they're saying here. you could end up with 2 of those loans. Now, here's the grant, the EIDL grant. If you file for that today, when we get off of this webinar, please go file for it. If and when you get the $10,000, and then you also file for the PPP loan, all they're going to do is subtract it. They're not going to give you $20,000 today for the PPP and then another 10 if you wouldn't have qualified for both of it. They're just going to subtract the first 10. And the reason I say go ahead and file for the 10, because we don't know how long it's going to take to get the PPP. They're telling us that the $10,000 grant is going to happen pretty fast. They were saying as soon as you're approved, it could happen in 3 days. I'm just repeating what I'm being told and what I'm being said. Don't come back and be upset with me when you don't get it in 3 days. I'm not in control of the disbursement. I'm just telling you what I'm told. Now, each eligible borrower is going to be required to make a good faith certification that the loan is necessary due to the uncertainty of the current economic conditions caused by COVID-19, right? And that they're going to use the funds to retain the workers, maintain payroll, lease utility payments, and so forth. Let's remember this. If you are an independent contractor, if you are self-employed, if you are a solo operator, well, you're going to maintain your payroll. So this includes you. So don't think it doesn't. So is it true that I won't have to pay back my loan? It is absolutely true. You will not have to pay back the loan. And this loan goes up to $10 million. Can you believe that? So some of these companies could get a whole lot of money and never have to pay it back, as long as, let's look at this checklist, right? If they've used it for payroll costs, and again, everything that I listed before, mortgage, interest, rent, and remember, and look, it says mortgage interest, not the mortgage itself. So you got to subtract the principal payment, and they're only going to cover the interest payment. But look at the first sentence. The borrower is eligible for loan forgiveness equal to the amount spent by the borrower during an 8-week period after the origination date of the loan. So the wages that you pay your employees or yourself for 8 weeks immediately following the origination of the loan. Now, this is very important. And you may have seen this on some of the media channels. Even this morning, they were talking about it. One of the channels, I watched Marco Rubio, the senator of Florida, and he was kind of doing a sidestep on this whole thing, because here's the nuts and bolts of it. At least 75% of the forgiven amount must have been used for payroll, i.e. Paycheck Protection Program. If some of you are paying rent, if some of you have utilities, if some of you have interest on your mortgage and so forth of the property that you're in, if you're going to use that money for those other items that they said you can use it for, 75% has to be for payroll. The whole idea is they want you to hire back your employees. They want you to pay yourself. If you don't do that, you're going to get fined. And here's what the fine's going to be. Forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees. A lot of businesses have laid off their employees. So if they want the money, let's think about the rules. They've got to verify their last 12 trailing months of payroll expenses. They've got to show that to the SBA. So if they show $100,000 in payroll expenses, and then all of a sudden in April of this year, it's $80,000, well, simple math says, well, they laid off, $20,000 of payroll expenses. That means they laid some people off. Well, if that happens, they're going to get dinged 25% of the loan. So here's the loan amount. So here's the problem. And this is what they said to Marco Rubio. Well, wait a minute. You're making the small business owners choose between the employees and paying their rent, their mortgage interest, their utilities, to keep their lights on. You're making them choose between the two. And Rubio kind of sharply answered back. He goes, why do you think it's called the Payroll Protection Program? If they want to lay off some employees and use it for other things, they can do that, but they aren't going to get the 100% loan forgiveness. So that's very, very important. I know that some of you have rented spaces. You've rented an office space, a meeting room space. So you have a decision to make. Are you going to put in for 100% of your payroll and just go ahead and pay the rent on your own? Or are you going to deduct some of the payroll, pay the rent, and then take a hit or get fined at the end of the day? Now, in 4 months, you're going to have to prove what you did, right? Now, are there any fees or charges to apply? Absolutely not. And yesterday, I think I posted it yesterday on our Facebook page. We're already getting calls and concerns because other companies are actually charging a package fee to go ahead and package these loans. And on the SBA website, it actually says and gives the link, when you hear about this, when you find out about this, you're supposed to hit that link and notify the FBI immediately. This was part of the act that was voted in, and we cannot charge any fees. If we do, we have some serious problems. So keep an eye on it. If you hear of somebody that paid $300 or $500 to get this loan applied for, then let us know about it. So these borrowers are going to have to verify these payments through documentation required by the lenders, such as but not limited to the IRS payroll expense form 940 or 941, your mortgage statements, your lease statements, your utility statements, and even your bank accounts to show that you actually made the payment. They're going to cross-reference the bank statement with what you put down to make sure that everybody's in line. And one thing I want to mention, there's a lot of speculation out there, and I'm sure that you've heard it as well, that some people are afraid and very upset that businesses and large businesses are going to take advantage of this and use this money as equity, working capital. They're going to take out dividends. And I'm here to tell you, I've seen the documents, I've seen the rules, and that is not going to happen. So if anybody's spreading that rumor that you've heard of, please tell them to stop. There is no way they're going to be able to squeak out dividends and money to owners and cash flow as far as in reinvesting in the business to grow the business. It isn't going to happen. It's only for the paychecks and for that list that I showed you, and they're going to have to verify it. If they can't verify it, the loan is not forgiven and they've got to pay it back. So the amount forgiven will be reduced proportionally by any reduction in employees retained compared to the prior year, which I've already said. And they're looking at 25% of the prior year compensation. And again, this is to encourage employers to rehire the employees. That's what this whole thing is about. You are an employee of your business. Again, whether you're an independent contractor or not, you qualify for this. Canceled indebtedness resulting from this section will not be included in the borrower's taxable income. If you borrow $10,000, if you borrow $100,000, if you're one of the ones that need $1 million and it's forgiven, it's not going to, you don't have to report it on your taxes. They're not going to come back and then tax it as income, which is a beautiful thing. Any loans that are not forgiven at the end of 1 year are carried forward as an ongoing loan with a maximum of 2 years at 1% interest. So let's talk about this for a minute. You might say, wait a minute, you just told me there's going to be forgiven. Yes, I did, but let's not forget. If you are a business that has decided you're going to use some of this money to pay your rent and pay your other items, and you have not hired everybody back, or you've reduced your own income from what you have legally reported, well, then that balance, you're only going to get 75% of the loan, say. 25% you're going to have to pay back. And so then they're going to make you pay it back over a period of 2 years at 1% interest, or you could prepay it at any time with no penalty. Now, I want to move on to the application form. What you're looking at here is the third revision. I've been told, fasten your seatbelts because there might be a fourth revision coming up. So I know it can be frustrating for those of you that have filled out number 1, number 2, and now you're working on number 3. It is what it is. We're dealing with the federal government here. This is what the top of the form should look like so you're not confused. Look at where it says sole proprietor, independent contractor. It gives a list of all the different business types. Now you check which you are, right? So now they've got independent contractor. They have the self-employed listed. On the previous ones, they did not. Now look at the next one. They changed this. It used to say times 2.5. Now they've added plus the other loan net of the advance, the $10,000 I'm telling you about. So if you're going to put in for a loan of $50,000, but they already gave you the $10,000 grant, you have to subtract, and now you're only going to be able to put in for $40,000. The bottom of the loan, this is the number that you're looking for, 04/20. If the form that you've been given or the form that you downloaded does not have that number at the bottom, shred it, get rid of it, get it off your desk. It's going to be too confusing. This is the form that you're looking at. You can find this by Googling it on the internet. You can go to the SBA website and download it. If you work with me or any other lender, this is the form that you're going to need to fill out. You're going to send it to the lender and send it to me. And then I might have to say, sorry, here's form number 4, revision number 4. But anyway, so this is the one you want to work on. So here's the required documents for the application. And I'm going to show you the whole list, even though I know that the list has been shortened. That's the good news. But I'm going to show you the whole list because, again, by this afternoon, it could go back to the original list. So you need the completed application. That's kind of a no-brainer. You need the SBA Form 1919 or corresponding SBA Form 912, if applicable. Articles of incorporation or organization for each borrowing entity. If you are a 1099, an independent contractor, self-employed, you won't have that. And that's going to show up on the top of that form now. When you check it, they aren't going to be looking for this because they know that you're not incorporated. Bylaws, only if you're incorporated. If you're an independent contractor, a self-employed, you aren't going to have an operating agreement. You will have a driver's license. You need to send in a color copy of your driver's license. Your payroll expense verification, the IRS Form 940 or 941. If you're self-employed, if you're putting in estimated taxes, that kind of thing, that's about all you can do. Or go back in and show your bank account where you actually took the money out to pay yourself. That'll be a form of verification as well. Payroll summary report, like I said, to corresponding with the bank statement. So if you do have a payroll service or you know of somebody that uses a payroll service, just take the payroll service report, match it to your bank statement, and life is good. If a payroll summary report is not available, then your employee pay stubs as of February 15th, remember that's the magic date, right? With corresponding bank statements and a breakdown of the payroll benefits if you have health insurance or whatever. And then 1099s if you're an independent contractor. So I would recommend for those of you that are on the call and you are an independent contractor and you have a 1099 agreement with any company, right? Get that 1099 agreement together because that will serve as your articles of incorporation since you're going to be filing as an independent contractor to prove you are an independent contractor of somebody's, right? You're working with somebody and use that to turn in. We also need certification that all employees live within the United States. If any do not, provide a detailed list of all the employees and their salaries outside of the United States. Believe it or not, I'm working with a lot of companies in California. It seems like a lot of those companies are foreign nationalist. They're foreign nationally owned, right? From all over the world. Well, there's certain things they've got to do. I can help them out, and we're going to follow the procedures. But the owners of the company, any employees outside the company, I can't help. And they've got to document it. We've got to see who they are. So they got to go through a little bit bigger process. But the whole idea is to help the people that live in this country for the Paycheck Protection Program. We're not protecting Canadians or the Japanese or anybody else. If they're outside the country, if the Canadians or the Japanese live in this country and they work here, then yes, they're included. Again, trailing 12-month profit and loss statement as of the date of the application for all applicants. If you don't have a formal profit and loss statement, it's going to be pretty easy for you to whip something up. Most independent contractors, you don't have a lot of expenses and a lot of things that would be problematic for a profit and loss statement. If you need some help or questions with that, that's something you can ask me offline as well. Obviously, I don't want to get into your personal business online with everybody. Most recent mortgage statement or rent statement, so your lease, produce your lease and your rent statement or your bank account that shows you paid the rent, and then most recent utility bills. If you have an outside location or an office or a meeting room that you've been renting, you can include all of that. Now, with that, I'm gonna open up for questions, but I am gonna jump ahead a couple of screens and then I'll open it up for questions. If you want us to help, we will. If you would like me to just ask a couple of questions for you personally, I will do that. So please do not ask any questions online that are personally related to you. Ask a generic question. I think you can respect that. And then I will call to set up a time to talk with you. Here is my information, the name of the company, my address, and that is the email address I would like you to use. SBA PPP, pretty simple. SBA PPP and the number 10 at NACCIsolutions.com. There's a couple of websites you can go visit if you want. But and then our office number is 630-393-4100, and that's the email address to contact me on. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to go back, and I am going to see if I can unmute. All right, everybody. Looks like everybody is unmuted. If you are still muted, that means you are self-muted. So check, and Bridget, it looks like you're self-muted. So see if you can unmute yourself. Are you there now, Bridget?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
I'm just looking to see if anybody else. Okay, Latricia, it looks like you may be self-muted. So try unmuting yourself because I have unmuted you on my end. Okay. All right. Looks like everybody's open. Wait a minute. Nope. Yeah, Bridget, you're still unmuted?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah, I have a question.
go ahead, Bridget. We'll start with you.
So I just want to, could you share what would be the biggest benefit for, because everybody on the line, with the exception of Cole, I think is in with the Mary Kay, and what is the biggest benefit? Because we don't have employees now. I have a studio. I know that there's some other directors on that have a studio, so that would be good to be able to pay, use money for that, because it's a Mary Kay studio for business. So I get that, but what are the other benefits and reasons behind getting this loan? Because we don't really have, we don't have payroll people. We're not, you know what I mean?
Well, but in reality, you do, because you're paying yourself, right? I mean, you're taking money out of your business as an independent contractor, and therefore you are protected with this loan. It's the Payroll Protection Program. It doesn't say the corporate payroll protection program. It's the payroll protection. You have payroll, you're paying yourself. So if your income has been affected by this, if your sales are down, if you don't have the same level of income that you've had in the last trailing 12 months, then absolutely you should think about it. I'm not telling you should do it, but you should think about it. But what I would recommend this. Whether you file for the PPP or not, I can't stress it enough. I am recommending you go file for that $10,000 grant. I am absolutely doing that. You don't pay it back. There's no strings attached. And you relatively soon.
And getting back, so the interest, there is no interest.
There's on the PPP, there is 1% interest, right? But all of that is forgiven when you show documents that you paid your rent or paid yourself, right? So the whole thing is forgiven. And that's why there's no payments for 6 months up to a year, because the government knows we're not going to take payments from these people because chances are it's going to be forgiven anyway. So they're not asking to make payments. So at the end of 4 months, that's when you start getting all of your documents together, proving what you used the loan for, right? So that the loan is forgiven. If you got the $10,000 grant, it's over with. You don't have to prove anything. They gave you the money. It's a grant. It's free money with no interest, no payback, no nothing. right?
Okay.
But,
Mhm.
but you have to have been in business
Right.
for 15th.
Yeah, everybody else. Yeah, everybody on I think is. Um,
Well, I said that again, just in case they know other people.
oh, right. Yeah.
Restaurant, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody
Right.
that they can help. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And now, is
Mhm.
there any other questions? I think most everybody's unmuted.
So Brad, this is Joy. I have a question for you.
Yep.
So more or less, there's two loans here. Or two, one's a grant for the 10,000, and one's the PPP.
Yes.
And as long as you can prove, I guess you're putting in your own dollar amount for the PPP, or you're showing proof of what you said, your breakdown of your income or whatever, but
Yes.
amount, and that amount is does not need to be paid back. It's going to be forgiven because you're going to prove after 4 months that you did pay your mortgage, which is only the interest, electric, uh, internet, things that we as independent contractors that do work out of our home to sustain. Because if we're not used to getting a check for 12 grand and for income per month, even though it's paid to us by commission on 1099, and we get 8,000, that's why we would want to do that or do both. Correct?
That's correct. And the reason they're doing the trailing 12 months, Joy, is because they understand, especially with independent contractor, self-employed, it could have peaks and valleys, right? So you may have some months where you're doing 15,000 a month, just pulling numbers out of the air. Other months you're doing 8,000. Well, they want to see what that average is. Yeah, that's why you average it together for over the 12 months and then take it times 2.5 months. And I want to mention if some of you are paying an assistant as a 1099, and I don't know if you are or if you're not, but if you are, you can include them.
Oh, okay.
You can include another 1099, which is very,
How about, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
How about if you're paying for services? Like, we pay for services to manage our websites, to manage our units, to manage our national areas. I mean, if we're paying for services, that would be covered under that as well, correct?
No, it's got to be some of those categories, either rent or interest on a mortgage, utilities, payroll, health insurance, but not to manage, again, it's not life insurance, not other things to run your business. So, but I want to back up for a minute. And if you don't want to elaborate, just tell me. But when you said to help manage your territory, would that be a person or is that a service that to help?
Well, it's a person that it's a person that owns a company that runs our services for us. Like they handle doing mail outs for us, or it is an individual, but they're probably,
Part
but
of our
their
cost of doing business, basically.
But
cost of doing business, upholding my business during these times.
so Joy, here's the beautiful part about this. If it's a person and he or she has their own business, they are a 1099 to you. Is that correct?
Well, we can't 1099 now. There's a reason for that. My tax guy talked to me about that, and there's a reason. I don't know if anybody else can speak up on that. There's a reason why we can't issue them a 1099, and I guess because they're not noted as a direct employee. They're noted as a service,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
that is really, I've gotten with 2 tax people, and they have told me that.
Okay.
So I've never 1099. I pay $300 a month, for example,
Yeah.
and she handles, she does mail outs and text messages and, emails to my consultants and my customers, but we cannot.
So,
But if you got the money, let's just say that we just can't use it for that. So what, as I'm understanding it, is we can, because I have a studio, I know Glenda, so they have studios. So there's one that we would be able to use that for. What about the interest on our own home? Because we're working from home. So people who don't have a studio, how can that benefit? Because you said, right? We can use part of that as
Well, they say interest.
And the utilities and all that.
Yeah. That's going to be one of those gray areas, Bridget. I mean, what I would do is this. The loan is going to be based on your average income times 2.5 months. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're going to put it in for. We know that you could use the money for these other things, like you just pointed out. I'm not going to tell you that you can write off the interest mortgage on your house and your utilities. I'm not going to tell you that. They may allow it, but as of right now, I'm not going to make that leap. So I wouldn't worry about that right now because those rules are going to continue to change as this thing develops, right? Mm-hmm. And that'll be one of those questions that we can answer later.
So basically, as I'm understanding this, and this will go back to the having our virtual assistants and all that, is if you get the $10,000 grant or the other loan, whichever way you go,
right,
is you're getting this money based on everything that you just said, going back a year, averaging our income. That's what we're going to get. Yeah. That's for us to, be like, well, even if it's looped through, and I don't hate using that word because that sounds like a bad word, but even if you're just paying yourself a paycheck, then because if your pay went down, at least you're getting extra, and that's helping pay these other things.
Well, you're absolutely right.
I think I said it very eloquently, but I'm a simple girl. Instead of saying, oh, I'm going to pay my assistant, it's just like, no, I'm just going to pay myself because I'm getting a couple $1,000s less than I'm used to. And part of that's going to help pay for the rent that is sitting there empty, but not everyone has that. So is that as I'm understanding this, correct?
It is. And I want to dovetail off of that because those of you that don't know me and that have not participated in any of my other webinars, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. I'm not going to blow sunshine up anybody to make the thing better. I'm not going to create fear, right? But we are going to talk about realistically. So when I'm going to say something, and it's not to spread fear, I'm a realist and I'm a strategist. So I'm going to help you guys strategize for a minute. Are you with me? Everybody with me? Okay. We don't know if this is going to be over with at the end of April or the end of August or October. We don't know. We do know this. It's first come, first serve on these loans. He's going to ask for another $250 billion for a second round. Okay. If you don't need the money today, if it goes until August or October, are you going to need the money? And if the answer is yes, then you need to apply for the loan. That's all there is to it. And if you're confident that you have enough money packed away somewhere that you can live for 6 months or a year and not sweat bullets, life is good. You don't have to worry about this. If you're not in that position, I'd probably go ahead and apply for the loan because I would rather have it and not need it than not have it and say, oops, I needed it, right? Especially the $10,000. It's free money. Go for the 10 grand, even if you don't go for the PPP. Right?
Yeah.
Because the 10 grand, you don't have to prove anything for that. That is a grant, and if you get it, great. It's the PPP that we will have to prove after 4 months of what we paid, what we used it for, and hoping we used it for principal, the interest on our mortgage and our utilities, and not necessarily the cost of doing business necessarily. That's a gray shaded area, but that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. And so here's the thing, and I want to rewind a few minutes back to what you were talking about, Joy, and I'm not going to get into your business, but I'm going to say this. I would recommend that everybody speak to their accountant and see what can be done about the personal services that you're paying $300 a month, $500 a month, $100 a month. I don't know what you're paying. I don't care. But whatever that number is, talk with your accountant, because if you can include them and get money for them, they are going to love you and they're going to be with you forever, right? So figure out how you can help them out. And if you absolutely cannot help them out working with a lender, then you've got to tell them to file for themselves. They are 99. They are self-employed. They should be doing this as well. So you can definitely help them with that advice, right? And tell them go get the 10 grand. So there are ways you can help them if your accountant just says, I'm sorry, you can't count them as somebody in your company.
Sonia, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Well, I'm simple also, and I'm just, so the grant, okay, so I'm going to apply for the grant. I'm going to absolutely, I do have one employee and like Joy said, a service that I pay, 2 services that I pay. But maybe just whatever. I'm going to apply for the grant, and then I'm like, okay, 12 months trailing, how much did I really make times 2.5? I do have all the documentations because I have a Schedule C from my taxes. I'm just making sure that I truly understand why we get a grant because we're part of it, because we're independent contractors, correct?
Yes. Again, originally, the independent contractors and the self-employed were not included. And people like myself went absolutely crazy. We were very upset. All right. And so a certain political party pressured the other political to go ahead and include you guys and the self-employed, because initially you were not included. Right. So we included. And then it went back and forth, and I'm not going to get into all the politics of the thing. It was ugly. But the point is, you are included. You're included in the grant. You're included in the PPP. And you need to make your own business decision if you want to move forward with it or not. It's totally up to you. We're all adults. We're all businessmen and businesswomen. We understand strategy. We understand our cash flow. We understand our personal cash flow. You sit down and figure it out, right? And then you're going to know if you need to apply or not. It's as simple as.
And basically, it's because if for any reason, which we all know, is okay, we can do more sales, we're going to get more recruits, but in any case, this is just a protection because you may not be getting the income that you have been getting because we can't go out and warm chatter. We can't go to Panera
Right.
and have a meeting. We can't go to a hotel room or rent a room. We can't, because the government shut down. And this is what we talked about, Brad shared with me when we had another meeting, is we've been shut down. So we're relying on the virtual events. Great. And you guys are doing a great job, but it may not be enough to suffice the income you're used to. And also you still have expenses. And so therefore it's a grant. And what I appreciate so much, Brad, about you bringing this to my attention, and that's why I'm bringing it to you guys' attention, is, you go along, you think, well, I'm making money. Those are for people but that's not correct. And, I don't want to be late to the party, so to speak. As you said, it could be another month or 2. I hope not. But the bills keep coming, especially if you have a studio or if you have all these other things. So why not be a part of that? So I guess, I don't know what I just was commenting on that. So.
No.
That's the why taking it, because I've been there too in my head going, now wait, why are we doing this? Oh, okay. Yeah, because we're not able to go out and do the volume of seeing the people to get the recruits in, to get the orders and things. So we need to kind of offset that.
Here's something I think everybody should read between the lines, okay? And we all know that, the government doesn't tell us everything, but let's read between the lines. They are not asking for anybody to prove what they did with the money for 4 months. But the loan is only for 2.5 months. Why did they say 4 months? I think right now they know this is going to go on for 4 months.
Yeah.
It's not going to go on for 2 months or 2.5 months. And I'm not spreading fear. I'm being a strategist here.
Yeah.
I want you to think this thing through clearly, right? You may not need money today. Will you need it in July? That's all I'm asking. And that's what you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a question. If it's just so I'm understanding this right, let's say my average income was $10,000. So that's the amount that I'm getting. That's what I've applied for. But then, my expenses were, but Mary Kay still paid me, say for next month, they still paid me $2,000. So do I only need to show what because maybe I'm saying this wrong. If we're able to pay ourselves a payroll, then isn't that all that we have to prove is the payroll?
No, but what's going to happen is this, and I don't want to interrupt you, but let me, you're partially right, okay? If you've been making 10,000 a month, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said if you've been making 10,000 a month, now you're making 2,000 a month, do you still qualify? Or since you're making some money, why would you qualify? Is that the question?
I think I said it backwards. Let's say if I was making 5,000 a month normally, and so that's what the government gave me was 5,000, but then Mary Kay ended up paying me next month, say 2,500. So now because the government gave me 5,000 and Mary Kay gave me 2,500, now I'm over the amount. So is that the difference that you have to show? Because like if I didn't make crap for Mary Kay, let's say I made 0,
Yeah.
but my average income was 5,000 a month, then do I need to itemize? Because if my payroll was 5,000 and that's all I received that month was 5,000, then that's all I need to show is, hey, this is my itemized payroll, as opposed to going through all those other details.
Oh, you're partially right. Let me just kind of clean that up a little bit. Let's look at it this way. They want the trailing 12 months. So the trailing 12 months you made, it doesn't make a difference with the numbers. Let's say it's $10,000 a month for the average for the last 12 months. Then you can apply for a 10, 20, for a $25,000 loan, right? 2.5 times the $10,000. That's what you can apply for. Now, this month you make $10,000. Woo, life is good. Next month you make $2,000. Oop, now you're back up to $5,000. Anything after what you've submitted is irrelevant, because at the end of 4 months, right, you're going to just verify what you did with the money. Let's say that you own a restaurant. Let's do it that way. We all know restaurants that have shut down their dining room, but they're still doing carry out and curbside. But they've cut their sales, their workforce in half, right? And their sales are in half. Well, they're reporting. They're only asked to report what it was the last 12 months, the trailing months. The government knows it's up and down. They don't care what happens after the loan. They don't care. You just have to, in 4 months, you're going to have to prove if you got, $20,000, $25,000, what did you spend the $25,000 on? Well, you spent it on yourself. You did what you said you were going to do, and life is good. They're okay with that. What if you made $25,000 in the next 2 months and you still got the 25? They don't care. They don't care. As long as you spent their $25,000 within the guidelines, they're going to forgive the loan. Keep working. And you might say, well, that sounds like you're double dipping. I don't like that thought. It's not that you're double dipping. As a businesswoman, you don't know. And sorry, Cole's a businessman. You don't know what the next 30, 60, 90, 120, 6 months are going to bring. You don't know that. And I can tell you right now, the restaurateurs, the attorneys, the accountants, the clothing stores, they're all having the same conversation we're having, and they're forecasting their cash flow needs. What if scenario?
And that's being a business person.
Being a business person.
Yeah. So, and you obviously have had lots of 1099s. You've had realtors working with you. You've had restaurant owners, hairstylists, chiropractors. So it's just
landscapers. It can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Most of them are self-employed independent contractors.
Yeah.
So let's do it this way. So you guys get the picture? 60% of all businesses, small businesses in the United States are self-employed.
Yes. Yeah.
End of story. 60%.
Yeah.
That's why I went crazy when I learned that the independent contractors and the self-employed weren't included. Are you kidding me? They knocked out 60% of American business owners.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's walk us through the steps. So everyone here just needs to decide which option they're going to go with. And then if they work through you, they contact you because you put up your information, and then you help us apply for that. Like you sent me the application and I sent it back to you, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I just filled mine out and then I sent it back to Brad, and then what happens?
what we're waiting for now, and we were told that last Friday we were going to have it, still hasn't there. Now we're being told that this Friday, no later than Monday, the note for the loan, so that note agreement will be ready for everybody to sign. And then they're going to give us the final list of documents. I went through that list. Half of those documents don't even apply to you guys because you're not incorporated.
Okay. Okay.
Once we get the note, you're going to have to sign the note, fill in your documents, and you're off to the races. We recommend fill out the application and get the process going so that you're in the queue.
Yep. That's what I recommend everybody. That's what we did. We just get it in, and then we'll go to the next step, right? You would contact us back and say, okay,
Yeah.
are you ready for the next step? And then the next step is get together.
That's
the
right.
documents.
Now,
Okay, I have a question, Brett.
oh, okay, go ahead.
But this, when they come out with this note or whatever that needs to be signed, that's the one for the PPP. That is not the grant, the 10,000. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yeah, very accurate. That's it. Yep. Now, I want to jump in here, all right? You know, you can go to your community bank. You know, you can go to Bank of America. You know that you can go to these different banks to get this done. Here's the challenge. And I'm not speaking poorly about anybody. I'm just giving you reality. And you probably heard it on CNN and Fox News and everywhere else. The banks have chosen to work with their premier customers first, with big accounts, already have a loan. They're creaming. They're the ones that are going first. So unfortunately, the other people, the other business owners, like Bank of America and Chase, they're sitting in a pile somewhere. I mean, you're not even on the radar, all right? The other challenge is, like Wells Fargo got out of this thing a day or so ago because they reached their lending limit. And sooner or later, the community banks and other banks, they're going to reach their lending limit. They can't help you out either. Now, I say, well, Brad, how can you do this? You're not a Bank of America. Well, the nice thing is we are unregulated when it comes to lending caps. So the direct SBA lenders that are working with me and I'm working with them, they don't have these same regulations as Bank of America, if you can believe that. We have no caps. So listen, if you want me to help you, I'll be more than happy to help you. If you want to go to your community bank, please go to your community bank. But I will, and Bridget has said it, and I'm going to say it. Maybe we grew up with this in our family. Just do it. Don't sit around.
Pay it now project. Yeah. I forgot to tell everybody, in case you didn't know, this is my brother. So
We do that.
I forgot.
So the point is, don't sit around and think about it.
My name is Brad Hayes. I forgot to even introduce you. Like, really?
Okay.
Well,
But
Oh, yeah. Sandra, do you have a question?
Sandra,
Well, that changes the game because I'm like, who? Why is this man helping you? Like, I'm a skeptic, right? Y'all know me. Right?
I was so blown out.
I knew your brother's name was Brad, but I didn't know his last name was
Yeah,
Hayes.
and I realized once we got started, but I was muted, which he loves to do, by the way. He
Yeah.
loves to mute his little sister. Okay. So he's loving this control, by the way. Mute.
the only time I can mute her, I love it. This is,
Oh. So I was like, okay, Miss Professional here. Didn't,
Yeah.
I'm always about giving you accolades and everything. And
it's all
I
right.
forgot to formally introduce him as Brad Hayes. So I'm so sorry about that. Yes. So that's why, I trust him immensely.
But I want to tell you some full disclosure. It's not that I don't care. I care about you. So I care that you make a decision to go do something. If you want me to help you, I'll help you. But if you want to go to your local bank, then please go do something.
Yeah.
But you got
How do I'm with whoever spoke, Asani, I think your name is, if I said it wrong. I was wondering, why would this man help us for free? I don't mean that wrong. What do you, this sounds awful, but what do you get out of it? You've got, how are you getting paid?
No, that is a great question. The law that was passed states that your local bank, a company like mine, we absolutely cannot pay money. And if we do, they want you to report us to the FBI. And I'm not kidding.
But how do you get paid? Because you can't do this for free.
You're right. And that's in the very beginning, we were out of it. We weren't going to get paid. They didn't want us to do it. The SBA was going to handle this themselves. I looked at my wife and my other associates and I said, I'll give it 48 hours. We'll be back in the game. It was 24 hours. We were, because the SBA figured out, it's impossible. They can't do it. Think about this. Bank of America, Chase, all of them said, well, then we're out. And said, the SBA, it's yours. And then they suddenly realized they need us. So the SBA is paying Bank of America. They're paying my company. They're paying us to handle this for them as though we were employees of the SBA. Yeah, they can't.
Oh,
I'm good with that.
That's right.
okay.
Yeah. So I don't care who you go to. They better not charge you, and you don't have to worry about the fees. The SBA's paying them.
Okay, Brad, you're hired.
Right, and that's why I was trying to get so many people on, because so we need, if you know somebody that could benefit from this, I have Kathy built, a lot of my friends, we just
Yeah.
I couldn't get them on, but we'll do it again. Yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
Sandra.
We'll
So
do-
here's, I'm gonna dumb it down. Apply today, 1. Number 2, decide if you're gonna apply for the loan. At least do the grant today and then look or do both of them today. Like, if you were my financial advisor, I know you can't tell me.
No, but I can recommend something, okay?
Go ahead.
And we hang up, you guys jump on the website and file for the $10,000 grant, right? Once that is done, then get a hold of me or anybody else, but say, get a hold of me, send me an email, give me a phone call. We'll start the other process. I'll get you the application, start answering your questions. Let's get it filled out. I'll put you in our queue. And then when I'm told in the next 3 days what the rest of the paperwork looks like, you'll be the first to know. You fill it out, you get that back to me, and
Are they getting this form from you directly? Are they going to because you sent it to me directly, or do they have to go on that website?
either one. If they go on the website, they can get it. But I showed you at the bottom left-hand corner of the form, as you're looking at it, the bottom left, it
420.
to say 420.
What was the code you wanted us to put in the subject line again? The email?
Yeah, in the subject line, put in the SBA, so SBA, and then PPP.
Okay.
And so that they're emailing you directly.
Yes.
And put in the memo line, what? SBA what?
PPP.
PPP for Paycheck Protection Program. So SBA and then PPP.
I have a quick question about on the applications. So I know it asks for our business name, which most of us are sole proprietors, and that's how we file. So it'd be our names. But I noticed on there that it asks, and it's required to put in a trade name. First of all, would that just be our name? And then my second question is that because we're sole proprietors, that's how we file our taxes typically. For our sales, but then we're independent contractors and we do get a 1099 from Mary Kay. Which one of those categories should we put on the application?
Well, you have a business, right? You're an independent contractor, so you're looking at 1099. Whatever you do is don't put Mary Kay on the application. It's going to be, yeah, you said it correctly. The name of your business is your name, right? Your trade name is your name. You're not saying you're Mary Kay Cosmetics. So it's your name, and then I would supply your 1099 or your independent contractor agreement. I would have all of that ready if that's the case, if that's what they want to see. We've been told that they will, but they may drop that. So just between now and then, get prepared to have those documents ready.
Okay, so we want to put independent contractor on there, not sole proprietor, because we get a 1099 from Mary Kay.
Yeah, I would put independent contractor. And on the top of the form that I showed you, there's a little box that says independent contractor. That's what I check.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's filled out.
Do you need to include our sales in our, when you look at the past 12 months or just our 1099?
You are going to have to verify the trailing 12 months. So from
Commissions from the company? Both of them or just commissions from the company?
That's the easiest one. Otherwise, you have to do your other sales, all your sales tickets of
I
sorts.
agree.
yeah, however,
It's less money.
I don't know if this is the case or not, but if some of you have another source of income, well, you're still an independent contractor. I don't care if you have 5 sources of income, you can put all of that together because you're an independent contractor. So you're gonna show all of your sources of income for the last 12 months divided by 12 times 2.5. You may have other money coming in outside of Mary Kay. Well, don't forget about that money. Put it in this, and they'll give you a loan.
But you just have to be able to, if y'all are going to put in your sales, you know, you have to make sure you can track that too, you know, be able to show it so you can show proof, not proof, but proof of where you get that money if you're going to add up that 12 months trailing, is it, right? Divided by the 2.5.
That's right. You have to verify your earnings. That's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the easiest way, because we get that from Mary Kay. You know, we get the 1099 and.
That's right.
So gross, not necessarily net.
Gross.
Gross, okay.
You're now not the gross sale, because you're not making all that money, right? You're getting a commission off the sale. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Right, but the gross, when Mary Kay gives us our, you know, commission checks, then we don't end up claiming that on our income tax because we have all of our deductions. So can we still use the gross that Mary Kay gives us on the 1099, or do we have to do the net after all of our tax write-offs?
Sure. No, I understand the question. The gross income, forget about the deductions. Your gross income. It's the bigger number, right?
Okay.
That's
Thank
what it is. Yeah.
So Brad, what if everyone here, anyone here on the call has other people that they think could benefit, what should they do? Should they direct them to, should we do another webinar, or should they call you directly or email you and then just say, hey, Sandra mentioned da 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 da, or what would be the steps? Because there's other people that clearly can benefit from this, directors, and you had mentioned even consultants. If there were some consultants that this was their sole income and had a pretty, you know, hefty income with their recruiting and sales also, or what do you recommend?
No, consultants, any independent contractor or self-employed. So that's everybody, right? I mean, the guy that's mowing your yard or anybody, recommend this to them because they're eligible. So to answer your question, yes, they can refer them to me. We can absolutely do another webinar. And what I think I'd rather do, not to push this back onto you, Bridget, but the people that are on this call right now, if you're finding that there is interest or other consultants, know, and we will set up another one.
Yeah, let's do another one. Yeah.
Because I don't have time to get barraged from 100.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. That's because you're slammed. Yeah, let's do that. So have you guys put the word out of what you learned today. If there's interest with your girlfriends, other director friends, whatever, you can text me, box me, and then we'll create another one. And then, because it's just easier for Brad to, I don't want to field questions either, and I don't want to talk about it. I just want him to do it. You know what I mean? So we'll just do another one, I think would be good. And Cole, same thing. If you have other hairstylists or realtors or, you know, it's all the same. So we'll just throw everybody in. So we'll do another one. Definitely. Does that sound good?
Yes.
That sounds great.
And one thing I want to mention too, if you speak with somebody and they say, oh, no, I've already filed with my community bank. All right. Here's what the big nasty secret is. Those banks have not submitted it to the SBA. Then that person can pull out and go somewhere else. Because if that bank is sitting on it because they're overwhelmed, they need to be honest with the person that you're talking with that they're overwhelmed. Otherwise, they may run out of money. I'm just serious, right? So anyway, did you say something, Bridget? Or you?
Oh no, I think my internet is unstable.
So anyway, and again, I am not.
A lot of technical difficulty over here. It's been a challenge.
I do not spread fear. I'm just being realistic. When you have the facts, then you can make good decisions. Without the facts, you make bad decisions.
And that's why I called this together, you guys, because when I was trying to share with my friends and they're like, oh no, I already ran down to my bank, you know, and I was like, okay, great. Why don't you just get the facts so you can just, I think education is so important, your own education. That's why I got this together, and I appreciate you so much, Brad, for
I appreciate you having me on, so that's good. We're good. And hopefully
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you everybody for joining me. And if you want to have another one because you're running into a lot of people that have questions, just talk to Bridget and we'll get it set up. If I don't hear from you, seriously, sincerely, I wish you well, but please do something. Just don't sit on it.
You need just a Mary Kay one. You need a Mary Kay webinar just for all this. Okay, well, I thank you, Brad. I'll be in touch, and I'll definitely share this with others.
Okay, thank you, Joy. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, guys. Good
Have a great day.
All your
Thank you.
businesses.
Thank you all.
So I'm
Thank you.
Bye.